who wants to go listen to JD Vance for a little while? I mean, I know I don't, but like, we're going to be doing it anyway. We're going to go ahead and increase the speed of this speech. This speech happened 5 days ago, but the news articles about it have been being written as of like 24 hours ago. Apparently, Europe is in no... Like, they are not in a good spot right now in regards to the shit JD Vance has said recently. So let's go ahead and see what he said over in Munich real quick.
Mr. JD Vance, who was here last year as senator, and we are very happy that he has come back to Munich, and we are very much looking forward to his speech. Please welcome Vice President JD Vance.
Well, thank you, and thanks to all the gathered delegates and luminaries and media professionals, and thanks especially to the host of the Munich Security Conference for being able to put on such an incredible event. We're, of course, thrilled to be here. We're happy to be here. And, you know, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is, of course, our shared values. And, you know, it's great to be back in Germany. As you heard earlier, I was here last year as United States Senator. I saw Foreign Secretary David Lammy and joked that both of us last year had different jobs than we have now. But now it's time for all of our countries, for all of us who have been fortunate enough to be given political power by our respective peoples to use it wisely to improve their lives. And I want to say that, you know, I was fortunate in my time here to spend some time outside the walls of this conference over the last 24 hours. And I've been so impressed by the hospitality of the people, even as, of course, as they're reeling from yesterday's horrendous attack. And the first time I was ever in Munich was with my wife, actually, who's here with me today, on a personal trip. And I've always loved the city of Munich, and I've always loved its people. And I just want to say that we're very moved, and our thoughts and prayers are with Munich and everybody affected by the evil inflicted on this beautiful community. We're thinking about you, we're praying for you, and we will certainly be rooting for you in the days and weeks to come. Now, I hope that's not the last bit of applause that I get, but we gather at this conference, of course, to discuss security. And normally, we mean threats to our external security. I see many great military leaders gathered here today. But while the Trump administration is very concerned with European security and believes that we can come to a reasonable settlement between Russia and Ukraine, and we also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense, the threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within.
So the enemy within thing, this is the language that Hitler used to justify the Holocaust. I'm not even shitting you. Like, somebody's going to Godwin's Law me, I know. But the enemy within was used to target Jews.
Retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. Now, I was struck that a former European commissioner went on television recently and sounded delighted that the Romanian government had just annulled an entire election. He warned that if things don't go to plan, the very same thing could happen in Germany, too. Now, these cavalier statements are shocking to American ears. For years, we've been told that everything we fund and support is in the name of our shared democratic values. Everything from our Ukraine policy to digital censorship is billed as a defense of democracy. But when we see European courts canceling elections and senior officials threatening to cancel others, we ought to ask whether we're holding ourselves to an appropriately high standard. And I say,
do you ever think that maybe elections get canceled when they realize that there's fraud? This is coming from the guy whose boss said that an entire election was fake. And that's why he didn't win. Sean Helfand, thank you for giving me your points for an wall.
Ourselves, because I fundamentally believe that we are on the same team. We must do more than talk about democratic values, we must live them. Now, within living memory of many of you in this room, the Cold War positioned defenders of democracy against much more tyrannical forces on this continent. And consider the side in that fight that censored dissidents, that closed churches, that canceled elections. Were they the good guys? Certainly not. And thank God they lost the Cold War. They lost because they neither valued nor respected all of the extraordinary blessings of liberty. The freedom to surprise, to make mistakes, to invent, to build. As it turns out, you can't mandate innovation or creativity, just as you can't force people what to think, what to feel, or what to believe. And
you know, it's funny. You say you can't mandate creativity. Isn't that exactly what an R&D department is? Just a sidebar. Isn't that literally all a fucking research and development department is, from top to bottom?
We believe those things are certainly connected. And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps,
I mean, yeah, that is generally how freedom of speech operates. You are free to say whatever you want. You do still have the ability to experience consequences.
perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement...
So that one me and Rhino actually talked about a little bit. He was literally told in that one that he was not supposed to be standing within that feet. He was given that information before he did anything. He himself chose to violate that information. He himself chose to violate those boundaries. If you violate a boundary that was set forth by law officers, you're fucking around and finding out. Like, I'm sorry, this is not me trying to bootlick the law. The law fucking sucks in most countries right now. But in general, you are fucking around and finding out when that boundary has been set and you violate it.
Spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for. Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility.
Yeah, when it's one person, it's just virtue signaling. When it's a bunch of people, suddenly there's an issue. You can't have an arbitrary when does a grain of sand become a heap thing with stuff like this. You just have a buffer zone where if you violate it, that's an issue. I'm sorry, but he brought that one on himself.
He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law.
That one sounds like a lie. Hold on. All right, so real quick, claim the Scottish government warned citizens that praying at home could be illegal. The Scottish government began distributing letters, blah, 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 blah. We already heard him say that. Apparently, this is misleading. While it is true that Scotland introduced so-called safe access zones within 200 meters of abortion clinics in September 2024 and banned silent prayer and similar pressure-building activities to keep women from going through with abortions, silent prayer at home with no distress to others was not included in that ban. The law does stipulate that even activities that can be seen or heard within the zone are done intentionally and recklessly in a private place within the area between the protected premise and the boundary zone could be an offense. So if you're sitting there praying in your own house, that's not a problem at all. Is if you sit there and you're just like blaring on your fucking radio, God hates it when you kill kids. God wants you to stop fucking killing kids. If you're doing that within 200 feet of one of those zones, then yes, that would be a violation of that law. LexiKitty, thank you for redeeming your points for an all-wall. So yeah, apparently he just fucking lied. Cool. JD Vance lying. That's great. Also, we have the one on the Adam Smith Connor. He was convicted of breaching safe zones by praying outside an abortion clinic after refusing repeated requests to leave the area. He was given a £100 fine, and he chose not to pay that, which triggered a court case. Then he was given a 2-year conditional discharge for not paying the £100 fine. That's why the real reason he was given thousands of dollars and pounds of fines was because he chose not to pay a small fine. He brought literally every ounce of that on himself. Go on, JD Vance. Lie some more.
Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizen suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Oh, also, his note about Brussels and the EU commissioners warning about intending to shut down social media during times of unrest. Apparently, let's see here. The former European commissioner said that there was the possibility of a shutdown under the EU's content moderation law only in extreme cases and only following due process if they didn't crack down problematic content during wholesale fucking riots. They were a response to French President Emmanuel Macron raising the possibility of blocking social media platforms during civil unrest in the country after the police killing of a 17-year-old, Nahel Mazouk, in Paris suburb. So, okay. So he's basically hyperbolizing all of that. Everything he's saying is basically just misleading. That's cool. I'm so happy.
In the interest of comedy, my friends, but also in the interest of truth, I will admit that sometimes the loudest voices for censorship have come not from within Europe, but from within my own country, where the prior administration threatened and bullied social media companies to censor so-called misinformation. Misinformation like, for example, the idea that coronavirus had likely leaked from a laboratory in China. Our own government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter what turned out to be an obvious truth. So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that. In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town. And under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
Also, yeah, I did see the White House posting "Long Live the King" with Trump there. Also, the reason that the government wanted to shut down the lab leak hypothesis was because we didn't have any evidence of it at the time. The CIA in 2025, January of this year, said with very low confidence that a research-related origin of the COVID-19 pandemic is more likely than a natural origin. I literally have the quote up right now. A low confidence assessment, which means we still don't know if it was lab leaks or wet markets. We still do not have enough evidence to say beyond a shadow of a doubt. JD Vance, can you stop fucking lying? Why is every single goddamn thing that comes out of your mouth a half-truth?
Now, we're at the point, of course, that the situation has gotten so bad that this December, Romania straight up canceled the results of a presidential election based on the flimsy suspicions of an intelligence agency and enormous pressure from its continental neighbors. Now, as I understand it, the argument was that Russian disinformation had infected the Romanian elections. But I'd ask my European friends to have some perspective. You can believe it's wrong for Russia to buy social media advertisements to influence your elections. We certainly do. You can condemn it on the world stage even. But if your democracy can be destroyed with a few $100,000 of digital advertising from a foreign country, then it wasn't very strong to begin with.
So, hold on, my guy. Then you don't actually believe that American democracy shouldn't be bought by Russia. That's not what that says. Listen to him again.
European friends to have some perspective. You can believe it's wrong for Russia to buy social media advertisements to influence your elections. We certainly do. You can condemn it on the world stage even. But if your democracy can be destroyed with a few $100,000 of digital advertising from a foreign country, then it wasn't very strong to begin with.
Okay, so this is him speaking out of both sides of his mouth. That's what this is. This is JD Vance saying in one breath, oh, I don't think it's a good idea. But if it was happening, wink, wink, democracy would be strong enough to not have any issues. Democracy should be strong enough, and American democracy is strong, so we should be able to weather a few $100,000 of money coming in from Russia to pay for social media advertisements during presidential campaigns. This is him speaking out of both sides of his goddamn mouth.
Now, the good news is that I happen to think your democracies are substantially less brittle than many people apparently fear. And I really do believe that allowing our citizens to speak their mind will make them stronger still. Which, of course, brings us back to Munich, where the organizers of this very conference have banned lawmakers representing populist parties on both the left and the right from participating in these conversations.
So he's talking about the AfD right now, like Germany's actual Nazi party.
Now, again, we don't have to agree with everything or anything that people say. But when people represent, when political leaders represent an important constituency, it is incumbent upon us to at least participate in dialogue with them. Now, to many of us on the other side of the
Just talk to the Nazis. They're reasonable.
Atlantic, it looks more and more like old entrenched interests, hiding behind ugly Soviet-era words like misinformation and disinformation, who simply don't like the idea that somebody with an alternative viewpoint might express a different opinion, or, God forbid, vote a different way, or, even worse, win an election.
Yeah, again, he's just talking about the AfD, which is Germany's far-right nationalistic party, which are the modern-day German Nazis.
Now, this is a security conference, and I'm sure you all came here prepared to talk about how exactly you intend to increase defense spending over the next few years in line with...
Okay, I'm not too worried about the rest of this. He's done all the stuff that I am concerned about. He's lied for the first 11 minutes of his thing, and he has supported the AfD during the last bit of his conversation. JD Vance is a piece of shit. Now, why would JD Vance be so concerned? Why would he be so concerned with making sure that Nazis have a conversation bit at the table? Why would he be so concerned at that? Well, maybe we should look at his allies. Maybe we should look at Elon Musk. Why was there a pro-Hitler Holocaust-denying ad on Twitter? The ad, which features a smiling photo of Hitler with happy children, had to be removed. There was an account posting an ad with the name Nixon Groyper, referencing Richard Nixon, as well as the Groypers, which are a neo-Nazi group. Pro-Hitler and pro-Nazi and other anti-Semitic content became increasingly common on X since Elon Musk took over. Users can pay for blue check verification, which makes it easier to even throw out that anti-Semitic shit. So why would someone like JD Vance be so concerned with making sure that the AfD and other Nazi-adjacent people have a voice at the table? Because those are the people he works for. Those are the people who pay him. Those are the people who he is trying to keep in power. That's why. Anyway, with that said, let me know what you all think in the comment section below. I have to use the restroom before I get online with Vice Rhino. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you all think in the comment section below of our lovely, lovely Vice President's speech in Munich. Jesus Christ, I'm depressed to be a member of this country. As always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full-time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravelern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press, though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.